15 is up.
Okay, we're going to start the meeting of the Finance Committee today, Wednesday, February 10th. We're having a joint hearing with the school committee, and we're going to review their budget. So we're going to open the meeting. We'll come to order. We'll all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dave, present the colors.
Here we go. Ready?
All rise. I pledge allegiance
To the flag,
To the flag,
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And everybody, please remain standing. I have a sad announcement today. As most of the members know, one of our former members, Jim McGlynn, he resigned about a month ago for health reasons, and we found out last week that he has passed away. So I'd like to take a moment of silence and honor him for his service to Stoughton and his dedication to the Finance Committee and to his family. So let's take a moment of silence, please. Okay, Jim, rest in peace, and look on down on us when you get a chance. Thanks. Okay, I need a motion. Let's do a roll call for, hello, who's that?
I'd like to make a motion to open our school committee also.
Okay,
I'll second.
Go ahead, Erin, good, okay.
Okay,
I'm
great.
gonna take roll call. I'll take roll call first, and then you can take roll call.
Okay.
All right, roll call for the Finance Committee. Ed's here. Bob?
Here.
Chet?
here.
Dave?
Here.
Diane?
Here.
Carrara? Jess?
Haven't seen him. No.
Yeah, they're at the other meeting. Ben? No Ben. All right, Joel's at the other meeting. John Anzavino?
Here.
The John Rock?
Here.
Marty West?
Here.
Elliot?
Here.
Vaughn?
Here.
Enoch? Oh, yeah.
I'll let you know when he comes. I didn't hear from him yet. I left him a message.
All right, we have 10 present. Okay, Sandra, you can do your roll call.
Thank you, sir. So roll call for Molly Cochran,
Here.
Katie Pina Enochian,
Here.
and Anita Hill.
Here.
Right, we're all present. Thank you for having us this evening.
Okay, I need a motion from the Finance Committee to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Okay, all in favor? Ed votes yes. Bob?
Yes.
Chet?
Yes.
Dave?
Here. Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Scott's not here. Jess is not here. Ben? I don't think he's here. Joel's not here. John Anzavino?
Yes.
Okay, D. John Rock?
Here. Yes.
Okay, Marty?
Yes.
Elliot?
Here.
And Vaughn?
Yes.
And Enoch, I don't think he's here yet. Okay. All right, we're open. Sandra, you could open your hearing?
We just did.
You already open? Okay.
Yeah.
You have to take a roll
Roll
call.
The motion was made. We did roll call.
You all set? Okay.
Yep.
All right. We are open. Tonight, we're reviewing the school budget tonight. This finance, the school committee's here. Welcome, everybody. Dr. Marcus. This is kind of a preliminary, like, first pass. Think of this as like a subcommittee doing questions and seeing what's going on and kind of digging in as a first pass. That's what we're doing tonight. So I guess we'll start with Dr. Marcus, if you could give us the budget, some of your challenges for 20 and 21, contract issues that settled, how that affects the budget, and general overview, that'd be terrific.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Ed. I appreciate it. And good evening, everybody. Good to be here. Good to see everybody. We're pleased to share a little bit of the school's budget tonight, and appreciate those questions, Ed, about the challenges for 2021. There certainly have been quite a few, but we've been managing and doing all right. And talk a little bit. I'm happy to talk about the contract issues and what we were able to do because we're pleased with those as well. Tonight, I'm just going to give a brief overview really quick and give a little bit of a high-level view, talk a little bit about our slight adjustments for this year, and then give some time for questions. So
Okay,
I know
great.
we got one in advance from Mr. Laurie, so thank you for that. And if there are any others that come up as we present, feel free to jump right in. Importantly, I think when we launched into the FY22 budget, we were very pleased that we were able to, for FY21, as you mentioned, Mr. Trumfio, to support the challenges that we were facing, looked at that additional Chapter 70 funding that came in. And when we did, we made a promise that we were going to use that funding as a one-time offset and make sure that we were able to take care of the needs for this year. And I'm pleased to say that we were able to do that, and that we started next year's process at the June level. So not at that higher level, but the 49.8. And that was really a way for us to recognize the economic limitations of what's been going on with the pandemic, and make sure that we come at this from a real conservative approach. So our guidelines are really to focus on what's best for the schools, make sure that we're funding all of the important things and telling the story about the schools that we want to tell, but at the same time take a conservative approach and really be mindful of where we're at. So we did that, and as you can see from the overall percentage increase, it's significantly lower than it has been in the past at 2.21% over FY21. And if you include that additional funding that came in, it was really as low as 1.1% if you look at it that way. So, and of that increase, about 1.1 million, the vast majority of that really is in contractual salary increases. So that's really the biggest nut, and I think that's true for any service industry like the town, the schools, and the services that we provide is really in the labor. And so that's of all of the things that we had to add, almost $1 million of that 1.1 million came in contractual increases. So, but the good news is, as you said, Ms. Trumfio, that we were able to settle some contracts and do a really great job coming in at 1% and 1.5%, and then coming in even lower for some of the other units. So it's been, so I think we're proud of that. We've done some great work and tried to be as careful and conservative as we can in developing this year's budget. So you can see that we in the overall budget that we presented, we have in that percentage increase, the real big adjustments this year came in the form of some critical needs that we have. And I'll just share a little bit of those. We have an increase in our special education population, especially at the preschool level. We've got a number of students who are coming in on the autism spectrum, and we started a class this year for those kids that was really just going to be almost a one-time, one-year thing, and it's blossomed. And so we've increased that class and made that permanent. So that's one of the new things that we've added to support those kids. We have a triennial plan, and in that plan, the 3-year plan, one of the key features of that is to support our English language learners. And this coming year will be our 3rd year, and we're excited to bring in another couple of English learner teachers, and that will actually bring the English language program to every building. So that's really exciting for us, and that was something that was part of that plan, something we had been hoping to be able to do, and a really critical piece. And then the other important note, we've had a program at the high school that we've been hoping to be able to fund. It's our students who are 18 to 22 who actually are who actually need services as well. They're part of the Stoughton Public Schools, and they're at the high school, and they are for the last year or so have not actually been able to be at the high school. They've been outplaced and going to programs in other places. So we were hoping to do it this year, but this coming year we built that in. It's called the transition program. And that transition program is going to support those students who are 18 to 22 years old and be able to have them stay in their home school, in their community, and learn those critical life skills that they're going to need in order to be able to become productive adults. So it's a really exciting time for them and for us. And the neat thing about that is that by bringing that program in-house, it's a cost of about $77,000 overall, but it's actually offset by savings of 96, so that the students are not having to be outplaced, but actually back with us. So that's really neat. So we're excited about that, that process and that program. As always, we are one sort of high level kind of note about our budget is that we are still, when in comparison to our like towns around, and you've seen that chart before, that our per pupil expenditures are still lower than the state average by almost $1,000, and lower by some of the towns that we're compared to, like Foxborough and Falmouth, Canton. Those towns are all significantly higher in terms of per pupil spending. And so that's something that I think is really critical as we continue to look at the budget going forward, is how we manage to make up that ground. And we talk about it quite a bit, and it's something that I think we focus on. In tough times like these, I think we recognize that we need to come in and be careful, be conservative, and make sure that we're not trying to close that gap quite as much this year. But it's something that I think as we move forward, we look to be able to do. So that's sort of just an overall picture of the budget. I want to share that we sent the information to everybody yesterday, that in our deep dive, taking a look at our budget and the accounts that we have, we were fortunate to be able to go to Fall Town Meeting a couple years ago and request the funding for security measures, the cameras and the radios. And we were equally fortunate to be able to get support from the state supplemental budget. And so we were able to purchase all the equipment that we needed. And so we're able to take that funding that was in that account and be able to turn it back and be able to use that to support the town overall. So we're excited about that. Obviously, if we have that equipment, if we needed the radios or the other kinds of security equipment again, we would be able to come back and look for that funding. But we're in a good place, and we're able to support the town and support the process of coming to a level budget. So we're pleased to be able to do that. We're excited for that momentum.
All right, thank you. And I also want to thank you for honoring your commitments from last year that you would take out that extra money and would start at the original amount, the June number, which was terrific. I really appreciate you, sticking to that and doing your best you can this year to keep it as tight as possible.
Absolutely.
Quick question on the per pupil items you just talked about. What's the magnitude or the dollar amount to like catch up at if it's $1,000 a head times what, 3,000 kids or something like that, like 300,000, or what's the scope of that number or whatever, just as a ballpark, nothing special, but.
That's a great question. I think if you look at the $1,000 per pupil, and let me give you the numbers. It's we're at about 15,000, a little higher than 15,000 per student, and the state average is about 16.2. So in that $1,000 range, and that if you take that per pupil over the 3,000 students, that's was that $3 million And so that that is a, you know, it's a big number, but it's something that I think we continue to look toward and figure out a way to ensure that that we're getting closer and closer to that.
Okay, it's kind of curious on the scope of that. Okay, yeah, and I also want to thank you for looking into those articles, and you found that extra money, the 171. I guess that's talked to Bill today. That's free cash, so it's sort of available for the budget if we need it. As you know, we don't like to use one-time items for the budget. This would be a one-time item. It is a COVID year. We might have to bend a little bit, but we'll wait and see how things develop. Some of our revenues are a little rosy. I think we may have to back some off, which would increase the deficit. So we'll wait and see. We won't make any final decisions till March. And we all know there might be some extra state money coming. There could be some federal dollars coming if they pass that big act, which we don't know the answers to yet. But we should know some of the answers by March. So as you all know, we're about 300,000 short. I don't know, 280, 250, somewhere like that. So whatever you might be able to do, or revisit your budget, maybe you can squeeze a little more out by March, or we'll see what's going on. But keep that in mind as we move forward in the process here.
We close, Ed, and we, you know, and I think we're pleased to be able to offer that that additional funding that came from that. And I think, you know, as you said, and I appreciate it, we came in as conservative as we have, you know, ever have in the past. So, you know, we're pretty tight. So I appreciate the request, but we want to make sure that we're taking care of everybody, especially in these tough times.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yeah, sure.
Just to add to what Dr. Marcus has explained, like, for example, the 2 ELL teachers that we are adding, those are, number one, part of a mandate from the state. They were in our plan all along to try and get an ELL teacher at each school. But now the state has come out with the mandate that per X number of students, there needs to be X number of ELL students, teachers. So that's part of the reason why we've added those ELLs, and yet we still came in at a 2.21.
Oh, it's good. Can you explain, just for everybody who might be out there, what is an English language learner? Why is it required by the state, and what's kind of the goal of doing that?
It's a great question. English language learners are students who do not speak English as their first language. So they're either coming to us oftentimes from another country, or they're coming from a family that simply doesn't speak English. And it's our primary responsibility to make sure that they learn English as quickly as possible and that they are part of the community. One of the key shifts over the last several years is, rather than having English learner students sort of isolated and kind of together, is that they really should be in their neighborhood school with their friends, with their neighbors, and connecting with their peers who are either English speakers or not, but they're getting their services in their neighborhood school. And so that's been a real push, and not only a state mandate, but I think something that Stoughton should be proud of, making that program into a strong, viable program that is in all of the buildings. So we have a fantastic director. She came in last year and has done some really amazing work with our English language learners. I just got a text a little while ago with a picture of 2 learning buddies, 2 kids who both speak Spanish, and a 10th grader and a kindergartner. And they were Zooming together and learning together in the evening. It was a really wonderful thing. So it's a great program, and certainly you can see how we're using technology in order to make it even better. So.
All right. So makes sense. Okay. Any other generalities or thoughts on the budget overall from the school committee, or anybody else want to opine right now on the generalities? I'm going to open up the questions to the members.
I'll just jump in super quick. Again, I want to thank you guys for having us tonight. I just want to, mention, it's worth mentioning, like, we've heard the folks at town meeting very clearly. We came forward. We were very open about the fact that, we had the additional Chapter 70 funds last year, and that we would come in with not including that when we level set this year to come forward with the budget. We do have, as they mentioned, the ELL state mandates that are required because we have a large population of ELL students that are in Stoughton, but also, you know, we're in a pandemic. There's a lot of things that have been required by the state that they've given us CARES fund money, et cetera, but still, we know this is going to go into next year. I think that we've come in pretty low, quite conservatively. I think that the fact that we're willing to forego ordering the remainder of the 3-way or 2-way, whatever way radios that we went to town meeting and asked, you know, for funds for that they approved. We did our due diligence. We, you know, worked with Senator Timilty to get additional funding to get money to cover that. And now, you know, we're looking to, instead of purchasing more of those items, is to hand that back and say, we're in a tough time. We understand there's a deficit, and this is our part that we're willing to do. And, you know, I just want folks to understand that it isn't very easy right now coming in at this conservative level and knowing that we're going into a year where it's supposed to be business as usual with the schools. But that's what it is. And so we have to do what we have to deal with. And we know that we're going to be going into a lot of social emotional issues and needs next year. And we were very mindful of that, but also understood that we'll be looking for grants and things of that nature to try to get some social emotional help for the students and provide whatever we can next year without putting it in the budget. So that was a very strong discussion I had with Dr. Marcus of how we're going to budgetarily put some things in to help the children of this town. But then ultimately we talked about how can we look and advocate with the senator and folks like that to get more funding outside of this. So we just hope that folks can appreciate the position we're in and appreciate that, you know, we're willing to forego the additional radios and safety features that we asked for at town meeting and hand that back to be able to help fill that gap. We're happy to order them too. So whatever you decide, but again, we're you know, we really want to try to, you know, move forward and make this as painless as possible at town meeting.
Yeah, sounds like a good plan. Hey, can you guys comment on how you see the school year starting in September? You're going to be in class, out of class, with vaccinations, yada yada. What's your crystal ball look like?
If you're asking us, or you're asking in general?
Just in general. I mean, you know.
Well, speaking for myself and maybe the majority of the school committee, we would love to have all the kids back full time. It all depends how the state goes and the state health service. We still have to abide by their requirements. If they're still at 6-foot distancing, we can't have everybody back. So it all depends how that goes. And that's I'm hoping, fingers crossed, with vaccinations and all that between now and then, that they get at least down to 3 feet. That would be a huge help.
No, that's an interesting idea. Okay, just kind of curious. So if they cut it to 3, that would help. To keep it 6, more difficult.
Yep.
I do think it's worth mentioning, Stoughton's one of the towns, when we met with the MSBA last week, they were impressed and mentioned how impressed they were with Stoughton. We have a model that the kids are in school for 3 days every other week. So they break it out by last name. So I believe it's Ada M, N, okay, M, and their cohort A, they go in 1 week, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for a full day. And then cohort B is the remainder of the alphabet, and they go on Thursday, Friday. And then the next week it's switched where A goes Monday, Tuesday, 3 days for B. So we provide more in-person learning. And we try to do that with the budget that we have and with the funding that we have. And knowing that we offer virtual learning academy at the elementary level, full virtual learning, that's a set of teachers. Then we offer, it's hybrid, which is, well, no longer hybrid, it's more in-person learning is where we're going. And it's students that are home, that cohort that's home, and the kids that are in the building that day watch virtually what's happening live. So we're actually trying to provide the most in-person learning that we can from a safe distance. And that's where we are. There's also worth mentioning that we're prohibited by the state law, DESE, with lunches. They have to eat lunch 6 feet apart. So in doing that, you're limited, especially in the elementary schools, they're so small. So you can't have all the 20 some odd kids in the classroom together eating here or in a calf. So that limits the space as well. But as the vaccine's out, and again, we're providing a lot of good in-person learning as much as we can right now. We hope that things change, but if they don't, we also hope that more CARES money comes, because then we have virtual learning again, and that's a whole set of different teaching, different teachers, everything.
All right, good, thank you. All right, open up the questions to the members, unless, Dr. Marcus, you might want to go over the question you got from Dave first. I don't know, is that starting point?
Sure.
You can maybe state the question and then opine, please.
So Mr. Lurie asked about the Student Opportunity Act and if it's null and void going forward, and highlighted the difference in the Chapter 70 funding from FY20 to 21 to 22, and how it had increased quite a bit last year between 20 and 21, about 760,000, and this year it only increased about 261,000. And so your question, Mr. Lurie, is was that a function of the SOA, and is that gone, and is the 2.21% adequate? Did I get that right? And then I'm happy to jump in. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I was looking, thank you. And by the way, I just wanted to comment that one of the most proud things that I am about the town is what you guys do within the school in letting those kids into the school, as was described by Chair, by the Madam Chair. And not only that, but you lead by example in your committee meetings. And I feel very, very inadequate showing up here in a Zoom meeting instead of face-to-face with you the way you guys meet. And I just hope that the town could take your lead and find a way to crack the code on how you meet in person, so we could get real productive, very lively interaction over these very important matters. And I feel like we're always missing a little bit off the edge of the way we used to operate, because we're doing it virtual like this. So my hat's off to all of you for the way you did that. I wanted to say that before getting into it, but thank you on the question. I think you pretty much did. I just wanted to do that kind of analysis about the changes in the money that was starting to come in when times were great, and then how the impact of the pandemic had on everybody's budget. And I almost, listening to the presentation earlier, I kind of wonder, how much of the SOA has become an unfunded mandate, because I don't know where ELL fits in the scheme of the mandates that you talked about versus how they were feeding us grant money on the SOA for the same things that they're mandating you to do now without the same money. So I think it kind of almost, contributes beyond what was already said in your presentation on what is going on with the state and the mandates, and are we done with the SOA conversation until some future when we're flush with money again in the state? Or that's kind of what I was wondering.
Sure, it's a great question. And the interesting thing, Mr. Lurie, is that the SOA is alive and well, and is actually the mandate, as you say, is still very much a part of what we need to do, and how do we take care of the kids going into the future. And so the law itself, the Student Opportunity Act is still there, and the mandates that are there. The funding is now sort of embedded into Chapter 70 itself. So where last year you saw that it looked like it was sort of added on, and it was an additional, there was an even higher number at some point in January of last year. So now what the state has done is taken that SOA funding, that formula, and sort of embedded it into the regular Chapter 70. So it's still there, but you don't see it as profoundly as you did when it was sort of that additional kind of big chunk that was there. So you're right, it's living within our means and taking care of those requirements is something that that we have to do. And EL is absolutely a part of that. That was one of the primary focuses that we had when we had the Student Opportunity Act, and we presented that last year. And so it's still there, and it's still very much a part of the work that we're doing. So it's a great question. I think it's not quite an unfunded mandate. It's being funded over 7 years, So what you're seeing is instead of that kind of all at once, you're seeing 1/7 at a time. So this year you're seeing a small piece of it, and that's is what attributes to that slightly lower amount of Chapter 70. But we're making it work and taking care of the things that we need to under the Act.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right,
I think
anybody
John
else have
Rock
a
has
question? Who's that?
John Rock has a question.
Yep, good, John. Hello, John, you're up. You go on, turn them on.
Yeah, hi. I want to commend Dr. Marcus and the full committee for coming in with a tight budget. You did a good job. I do have a question. So did you settle some teacher contracts since last we met?
That was a while ago, last year.
Okay. All right. So you did
Yeah.
it last year.
Yeah, we had,
All right.
we did have some impact bargaining that we were doing over the summer. And we've still been doing through the winter regarding the COVID-19 impact to the current contract. So we've been having to meet with them, and I think that's what you guys are seeing. So we're it's about the impact in the current work environment, and we
It's
have
not-
to just
it's
continue
not
to have those
financial.
discussions. Yeah, it's not financial.
Okay. So I just noticed the salary increases, the line items for teachers are generally more than 2%. So I know that's due to the hybrid raise system you have, where you negotiate an annual raise and then you have steps and different lanes and that sort of thing.
Yep.
We'll be negotiating. I know there'll be some kickoffs this spring. We have contracts. There's like a, whatever the year's pattern is, but yeah, those will kick off, I believe, in May. I think it's the para. I don't remember, Dr. Marcus, but yeah, we'll be starting some that are actual contractual contract negotiations soon at the end of the school year.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that hybrid system of raises is, I know it's been like that for a long time, but if it's going to be above 2% all the time, I don't know how sustainable it is. And the other thing is, there's some departments like the music department, right? That went up 7.8%. Would you add a position or something, or?
No, a lot of that has to do with just the staffing and who's coming in.
Okay.
So if you have new staff that are coming in, they may come in at different steps along the way. So the increases may increase or decrease a little bit depending upon if you've got new people coming in that are lower on the scale, or some veteran folks that are coming in.
I actually think Kathy can answer that question in terms of the line item. I know that we've talked about line items and the adjustments. We didn't have a large, you say music department, we didn't hire a new music director per se. So there was just some cleanup. I know that Kathy had some additional cleanup to accounts. So Kathy, do you mind just filling that gap?
No, sure. Thank you. So you're not going to see a consistent 1.5 or 2% increase when you look at the teachers through their content area, because every teacher within that grouping is on a different step and lane. So someone might be on the top step and they're truly just going to get 1.5%. But a teacher who's maybe bachelor's 2 moving over to master's 3 is going to have probably closer to a 7% raise. So, if you look at the social studies content area, we have mostly veteran staff in that group, and we also had a retirement, so it's considerably lower. So you can't look across each content area and assume it's going to be equal across the board. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, I understand that. Actually, my wife's a teacher, so.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, I just, at some point, I don't know. I don't think it's sustainable to have several different methods of determining raises, but.
Well, we do actually have a line in here that is called step lane changes, and it's budgeted at $128,000. So we actually use that to make those changes for the lane. So even though it might look like that particular content area went up a lot, the money was actually accounted for in 21 for the lane change. So it's just now attached to the teachers.
And I think overall, go ahead, John.
No, I mean, yeah, I definitely understand the difficulty, and you know, I think you've done an excellent job. It's just teacher salaries are the driver of the budget, and the more you could head that towards 2%, the better.
And I think that. Go ahead. Okay.
No, I'm done.
I got a shaky internet connection.
Hold on.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, I think that's the key. You know and as we work on those, you know, we're at 1%, and that I think that's really the key there, John. And we're able to sort of work on that and make that happen from one year to the next. So those annual increases are important, and we're able to take care of that and be as conservative as we can. So it's a good point. Thanks.
And the only other thing is there's a big increase in private school for special ed. I don't know. Do you not have any control over that?
That's a great question, and it really does. It's specific to the actual students who come. So to a great extent, we don't have control. It really depends on who is here, who's in Stoughton, and we may have times where a student moves in with very specific needs, and that will drive the budget up, or the other way around.
So I definitely applaud your efforts to teach some of these students in-house. Like you mentioned, you had the extra class for kids on the spectrum. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. That's a real.
In that respect. So, anyways, thank you. I think you guys did an excellent job. Okay. So.
Thanks, John.
Mr. Chairman, I think Elliot has a question, and then I know John Anzavino has a question too.
All right, we'll do Elliot and then Johnny Anzavino. Elliot, you're up.
All right, I have a question for Dr. Marcus. Do they still have the MCAS test, or do they have any way of evaluating the students on a fixed level and not something that says, well, it's COVID, so we're going to lower the standards? What way are we evaluating the progress of the students, how they're doing under this COVID crunch?
That's a great question, Elliot. Yes, the MCAS is still there. There was a pass on it in the spring last year, and this year it's back. The hope is that everybody will be back in school, or that we're able to work that out with our, as Mrs. Gropey said, our cohort A and cohort B in different days. But it's definitely still there, and it's a really important thing for us to be able to measure. To be able to measure how students are doing in this COVID environment. So it's not so much about comparing, school to school or town to town, things like that. Right now, the MCAS for this year is really about how kids are doing and how we're using the something like the budget in order to support our kids and their success. So we're actually glad to be able to have the MCAS and be able to use it to gauge how the kids are doing and make sure that we catch the kids who need support. So it's an important question. It actually does very much relate back to the budget. So thanks for asking.
All right, Johnny Zavino, you're up.
Hey, thank you. I got a few questions, and in case you didn't notice, Mr. Chairman, Enoch, Scott, and Ben have joined us. So.
Okay, good.
At various times. So, but anyway, I'll echo the comments that I think you've done a fine job with what we've had to deal with over the past year to get our kids as much in-person learning as needed, or as you could get. I think that's a very important part of their education. They need to have that social interaction. And I know Mrs. Gropey had alluded to the fact that once they are back and everything, there are going to be issues that have to be dealt with to make up for the lost time. I know I have grandkids going through it, and I see it, and it's difficult. Anyway, with that, if all right, first, is it possible? Can you tell us what the contract called for raises with the teachers?
The
percentage, or was there a percentage given, or was it broken down different ways? Or I'm talking just a raise. I know how people. Well, we got steps and lanes. I mean, that's increases. It's still increases, but just was there a flat increase given?
Yeah, it was 1%.
1%. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, because I see that for the number of members and the amount of the contract, the average was over $2,100. So that's why I was curious.
Sure.
Is there any way we could get a copy of the contract so we can see what for the A and B, even the other one, so we can see what these charts are and
Sure.
get a better idea for what's there?
Yeah, over the 3 years, it was 1, then 1.5, and 1.5, and then the B was 0, and I forgot. So, but yeah, we can get that.
Okay.
I think they're, you know what, John? They're on our website.
Oh, okay. I can see Katie had her finger up saying, "I know." All right, no, that's fine. If they're on the website, that's fine. I'll go look them up.
Absolutely.
And then I was wondering if you could expand a little bit on this transition.
Sure.
The 18 to 22-year-old, the transition program.
Sure.
Could you just give me a little, background on what that really is? And
sure. So the public school system is responsible for students until they turn 22. So there are a handful of students with various cognitive issues or those life issues that will stay with us beyond the normal graduation year of 18. And so they are oftentimes in a program that will be out of district, so they'll be in a setting that's away from school, and they're learning those sort of job skills and life skills in a setting outside. And what we want to be able to do, similar to some of our peers, is to be able to bring the students back in-house and have them be with their friends and neighbors, be part of the school and part of the school community, and be able to support them at Stoughton High. And it's been a goal for a couple of years, and so we're pleased to be able to finally get that program back in-house. And as we talked about, not only is it much better for the students because they're close by and they're with their peers and learning from our Stoughton teachers, but it really does save in terms of the cost, because you're not transporting kids out to other places and paying for a higher price program.
Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning if you guys look at the budget, what we tried to do is make it on that cover sheet, we asterisked the amount, and there's a footnote that outlines that position, that 18 to 22 year transition period, where we actually have a target savings by bringing it back in-house, which is a nice thing.
I got it.
Yeah, so that's it tells you the savings below, which is nice.
Yeah. No, I think that I appreciate the explanation. I think it's great. I'd rather see our kids staying here than going out. And the autism spectrum disorder, having that, is that a new program, or is that that you're starting into? I think it's great. I think it's great that you can offer these services to as many of our children that need them.
Right.
And I'd rather see them have it in town than have to go elsewhere to get it. So,
absolutely. Yeah, it was a program because of the influx of students at the preschool level who came in on the spectrum this year. We spun up the class this year, and really we're thinking that those kids would be able to then be back out into other classrooms. But because of the number of kids that have come and the level of need, we think that it's critical that class continue on and be a part of the preschool experience so that they're with, again, with their peers in the preschool.
Yes, no, I think it's great that it can be offered. I've seen firsthand what these classes can do for these kids. And I just think it's great that our town can do that. I think it's wonderful for the kids in this town to go to their own schools and get it with, and eventually be with their peers in town, not elsewhere. So I think it's great that we can get these programs rolling and keep our kids in their home schools. And I shouldn't use that word in our town schools. Home school is too different now. But I thank you for your answers and your explanations. And again, I think you've done a great job holding the line that you would start with the basis of where you were, not with the extra funding that come in through special town meeting. And I think hey, I know it's tough. It is. I mean, that's a big number. 50 million is a lot of money, but I'm glad to see you did start with the lower base. And, you could have started with the higher one and said, hey, we only went up 1%. But so I'm glad you presented it in that fashion. And again, I do commend you for the hard work, what you've had to do over this past year. It's quite a unique situation, and hopefully it will be gone soon. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, go ahead, Anita. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I just want to add a little bit about the transition program. Like Dr. Marcus said, by mandate, we are not just Stoughton, but all school districts are responsible for students up until 22 years of age to get them through either a high school degree or what we call they mature out. I sit on the board of directors at one of our collaboratives, Pilgrim Area Collaborative, and they have a transitional program, and it's wonderful, but they charge $20,000 a year for a student. And if we don't bring it in-house, like Dr. Marcus has done here, we pay $20,000 per student to go there. You may not say, oh, how many are there? That can't be that much, but it adds up really fast. And like I said, you're required to carry them through. And some of them, depending on their abilities, they're not able to ever graduate, but they give them the life skills, the cooking, the washing clothes, the basics that everyone takes for granted, but trying to help them where their families can't. And that's what I think is so great, is that Stoughton has, over the years, it started way back with Mr. Sarno, bringing the special education classes back into our schools as opposed to sending them out, not just because of money, but because the kids are back with their friends, their cohort, their neighbors, and they go that way for the rest of their school life.
Right. No, I think it's great that we can do that. I really do think it's wonderful. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Sandra, Anita, and Dr. Marcus for your answers.
Thank you, John.
Okay, who's up next? Who else has a question? Come on now, someone's got to step up.
Ed, hopefully you can hear me. Sorry, thank you very much to the superintendent and the school committee. Sorry I was late. We have a little one who developed an ear infection, so it was a busy evening. But I had a quick question. Hopefully you didn't talk about this during the portion of the presentation I missed, but Dr. Marcus, I was hoping you could just maybe provide some updates on how the school, you as superintendent, as well as the school committee, are interacting on the town side with the town manager and the town manager's budget team, and just for the purposes of budget planning and sort of coordination. I'd love to hear about that.
Sure. I think I'm very pleased with my relationship with Dr. Grimm. She and I work together very well. We communicate regularly and talk about how things are going, both in the moment and then as we plan for the future. So I think that's been a very positive relationship and something that I hope we continue to foster.
I consistently speak to the chair of the select board, and we, obviously we talked about where we were with the deficit and what's, what are the possibilities. We're both looking at, our budgets, et cetera. We continue to have discussions around other things and keep those communication lines open, even during tough times, which is extremely important for the town. So yeah, we're going to keep going strong, which is wonderful. We have started I know Dr. Marcus started that communication line with Dr. Grimm last year. They both really worked well together, and they continue to do so. And we're extremely happy for that and grateful for both of them and you know, bridging those relationships together. And like I said, from a school committee perspective and the select board perspective, we'll continue to, you know, talk about, you know, all the matters in town, but more importantly, the budget. And, you know, when we have to have the tough discussions, we do. And here we are, we're coming forward with, you know, trying to forgo purchasing more radios and saying, here we go, we'll hand it back.
Thank you. I guess appreciate that. I'm grateful that y'all are doing that and continuing those sort of open lines of communication. It's really a wonderful thing that I've seen develop over the last few years, especially with the transitions. So keep up the good work, and I'm grateful that hopefully we will be avoiding any sort of March or April meetings, small team meetings. So thank you so much. Keep up the good work, and thanks for your efforts to sort of contain the budget as we deal with everything we're dealing with in 2021, and for serving the students. Really appreciate it. And that was my only question right now. So thank you.
Thanks. Good luck to your little one.
All right. Anybody else? Come on, Enoch, you're new. You got anything you want to add or a question for Dr. Marcus about the school stuff, the budget?
The only question I had was like how the budget, like how is the budget different this year versus other years in terms of COVID, and how that affected teacher salaries, the custodian salaries, and all those that work within the school system?
That's a great question, and I think we have had to deal with a whole bunch of different issues in terms of how COVID affects the schools, the staff that we've needed to bring in. Custodial work, as you mentioned, has been really critical in terms of keeping the building sanitized and clean. So that's been a big thing that we've had to focus on. And it continues through this year. I think there was this idea that that COVID was going to kind of drift away and we'd be rid of it by now, you know, by February, March, that it, you know, we'd be free and clear. And obviously that's not true. And we're still at it and still taking care of those kinds of expenses and those kinds of issues in order to make sure everybody's safe. And the interesting thing, as Mrs. Gropey said earlier, is that this is really going to continue into next year as well. So we never would have thought that, but I think that's really one of the things that as we're thinking about, you know, the kinds of costs and the kinds of things that we need to plan for, the things that you mentioned in terms of taking care of the extra cleaning and sanitization and all that, the safety features, you know, we're gonna be living with that for a while, and so it's an important part of what we do.
Yeah, do you mind if I just add super quick? So, you know, I've got, in terms of like the budget and, you know, you mentioned cost wise, our budget that we have and that we put forward is standard. It's basic budget. It's not something that we've put anything in terms of COVID needs. What we have this year is this budget is subsidized by CARES Act money. So we got additional state funding. The town got additional state funding, and that's what's helping to fund the additional you know, temporary staff that we had to hire, temporary teachers, long-term subs. Kathy's like, yes, she presented to us. There's a lot of temporary things that we had to put in place. So just to answer your question, while the budget that we have is to pay for what we have contractually, which we mentioned was the teacher salaries, et cetera. This year, the difference was, yes, we had a tremendous amount of expense. We had additional Chapter 70 funds that we were able to use that we received at town meeting, but in addition, the CARES money, which is gone.
I also want to add just for any newcomers, I see there's a couple new people on the FinCom, but our contracts, teachers, custodians, paraprofessionals, all of our labor contracts are very similar to the town side contracts in that they're for 3 years. The teacher, and they kind of rotate. The teacher's contract was settled a year and a half ago, I believe. So we're in the middle of it. So those don't change. We are still obligated for those. But like Sandra said, this past year for COVID, in addition to those contracts, we had to bring in temps or subs for outside additional teachers to, for example, to teach the virtual academy. We have students that are going 100% virtual that aren't on our high, and that was an option for them, and we had to allow for that option. So that's another staffing need that we had to add this year.
Through you, Ed, could I ask a
Hold on, Scott, I'm going to ask a question first, then you can go. Enoch, you all set?
Yeah, thank you guys for answering my question. I appreciate the hard work that you guys are doing during this pandemic. Thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, Scott's up, and then Dave, you can ask your question.
It's just a quick question through you, Mr. Chairman, to Dr. Marcus. Is it my belief that Charlie Baker's putting some extra money aside to help you people out with the cleaning? I thought I heard that when they were talking about his budget the other day, that they were earmarking some more money for the schools.
Yes. So the new funding that's coming in, the original funding was called ESSER, E-S-S-E-R, and the new funding is called ESSER 2. And so the ESSER 2 funding is will be coming in, and it can be used actually over 2 years. So for 22 and 23. And that is really targeted for some of the gaps and deficits that we've seen due to the pandemic. So we want to make sure that we're catching kids up, deal with social emotional sort of needs, some of the continual sort of needs that we'll have in terms of cleaning buildings and keeping distancing and things like that. So so it's great. It's needed funds and will be important for our kids as we move into next year and start to sort of come through the pandemic and be able to support our kids in ways that we wouldn't have to with, in a regular year.
Also, we're actually right now looking to beef up our summer programs to try and get ahead of the children that are faltering or stumbling or have missed things. So we always have summer programs like the Nights of Summer, but we're trying to add even more to them.
That's it, Daddy. Thank you.
Okay. Dave, hold on just a second. I know there might be a few people from the public that's out there on the Zoom. If there is, do anybody from the public have any questions for Dr. Marcus or the school committee?
A lot of crickets.
Vaughn, anything going on?
Don't see anybody raising their hand.
No.
Other than
Okay.
Dave.
All right, Dave, you're up.
Nothing worse than cricket. Smack does not like crickets, okay?
To put the Darth Vader thing back on.
These are such exciting meetings, So this is a continuation of Enoch's question, which I the previous speaker also did through you, Ed, is to quantify what we're talking about, because I think it was a good question. You have the base budget, which is routine, what you year over year, a lot of it's already, baked into the contracts from, recently signed, and that kind of just keeps rolling along. And then the pandemic came along and you ended up picking up CARES, and then this very creative ESSER 2 thing that just came up. But so from federal and state, can you just quantify those? So what was available and what was used, I think is where I want to go with. So how much does it actually cost to make it possible to open the school in the middle of a pandemic?
That's a great question. The initial CARES funding that came in was around 400,000, and then there was some state funding that came in, and so those initial CARES Act money and that came in, as Mrs. Gropey said, we spent it all. So we took all of that, as well as the additional Chapter 70 funding that came in, and we needed that. That was that 500,000, and that funding, as folks have talked about, really took care of additional teachers, additional PPE, the protective equipment, nurses. We've had to have isolation rooms, so additional nursing staff, a whole bunch of things that we've had to deal with in the pandemic that we didn't have to before. So moving forward, the ESSER 2 is 1.7 million over the 2 years. And so you divide that out, and that will help us as we go through the next couple of years and deal with the results of the pandemic, sort of the aftermath and the kinds of things that we need to do in terms of helping kids with social, emotional, and academic needs.
Yeah, and I think like a key thing is when we were starting to talk about the path to in-person learning, to try to give the students as much in-person learning as we could. The CARES money was used to purchase a bunch of desks for the middle school because they had long tables, and in order to keep them 6 feet apart and being able to eat lunch in their classrooms, we had to order separate desks. So we had to use the CARES money to do that, or we wouldn't have been able to have gotten the kids in the building at the capacity that we have now. We also, from an air ventilation perspective, had to order these thingy-majiggies, these big air ventilators that are in every room, so that in the they started school in the fall and they had the windows open, and in the winter they had the windows open to circulate. You had to have two for a certain amount of time. It was a guideline. So these are helping with the winter and not having to have the windows open as much, with circulating the air and the air quality. So there's all these things in order to have all the people in the building to learn. We use that money to purchase those things. The desks was a large expense, right? Almost 200 grand, 100 and
over 100,000. Yeah.
Yeah. So things like that.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
All right, anybody else?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. Rowe.
Hi, Bill Rotan, accountant. Yeah, I just want to express my gratitude to the school committee and particularly the special ed teachers. You know, it was a 3-year-old granddaughter with autism. It makes such a difference in their lives, and she's shown such great. They live in Virginia. They have a wonderful program, and you know, she's made such great progress, and it's just such a respite for the parents. You know, just to have, you know, 3 hours a couple of days a week just makes so much difference in their quality of life. So hats off to everybody, and particularly the special ed teachers. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Bill.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Anybody else on the committee have any questions?
Mr. Chairman. Oh, sorry.
Yes, sir, Ben. Go ahead.
I'll defer to Enoch.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here. I just wanted to ask a question. What resources are going into the mental health of the students due to the pandemic? I know a lot of them, a lot of them are home and they might not get the social skills from being home, or they might suffer through anxiety or depression. So I just wanted to know what the school is doing to help out these students.
Good question.
So we have through both the special education department and our guidance department, we have counselors available at all times for students, and so we're making sure that they're available to kids. We have built into some of our additional staffing. We have facilitators at the secondary level to help out with kids in their home instruction if they're home and they're not able to connect. And then moving forward through grant money, we're able to add additional support staff, both mental health as well as physical and behavioral health too. So we have additional nurses that are coming on board and additional counselors that we're going to be hiring. And then the programs that some of the other folks talked about, the summer programs and the aftercare and vacation programs are also really critical to keep kids connected and keep them feeling good and with their friends and peers.
Okay. All right, Enoch, you all set?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ben, you want to ask a question?
Yes, sir. Enoch set me up, actually. My question was related to that very thing. I work for an organization called the Massachusetts Health Policy Commission, which is responsible for doing a variety of efforts to control healthcare costs and to promote healthcare quality in the Commonwealth. And one of the things we've been monitoring is just the dramatic increase in telehealth services since the pandemic started. It's been sort of shot off like a rocket, especially within the behavioral health space. But one of the pieces of information we actually released today showed that 1 in 4, based on claims data, 1 in 4 young people were disconnected from their psychotherapy services during the last few months. So although there's been a significant increase in telehealth, a lot of kids are getting disconnected from their therapists, and there's not really a good sense of why. So I just want to commend your work to try to connect kids to those services and to promote social and emotional health, because we know anxiety, depression, like Enoch was saying, suicide are sort of like big issues right now for young people. And with that said, and knowing that you're interested in grants, the legislature, as a part of the opioid epidemic legislation in 2018, established and I'll email this to you, established a trust fund, a community-based behavioral health promotion and prevention trust fund. Of course, it was unfunded. However, last year, when they passed the tobacco vaping update law, part of the excise tax that they established on vaping products is 30% of that excise tax is going to go to this trust fund to address the behavioral health needs of community members, and with a special focus on youth. So I'll email that along to you. I think that the excise tax went into place last year, so hopefully there should be dollars sort of starting to be available through that trust fund. It's an excellent trust fund. I know the person who wrote it. He's sitting in this room with me right now. So, and that was me. So I'll send you along some of that information, but it's really excellent work. And there's a special commission focused specifically on behavioral health promotion and prevention that may be a good resource as you guys continue your work. So I'm so grateful for your work on that. I've lost 2 relatives to opioid addiction in the last 5 years. So your work on that is just amazing, and I commend everything you're doing there. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that Selectman Cavey is here looking to ask a question, I think.
Sure. Selectman Cavey, you're up.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I do have a question, but I also just wanted to say that I want to thank the members of the school committee and also the superintendent. This has been an unbearably difficult year, and they've really done astounding work with their budget and with the care that they've exhibited for our kids. It's really just been absolutely outstanding. Every aspect of it, I'm kind of in awe. So I wanted to say thank you personally for the work you're doing. As a select board member, obviously, it's been a pleasure working with you. It continues to be a pleasure working with you. As a town meeting rep, you certainly have my support on your budget and also other articles that FinCom will be viewing later. And lastly, as a parent, especially one parent of a kid who's learning where he has some difficulties, and he's in the special ed program, and he is doing very well. He's actually having one of the best years that he's ever had, and it's a testament to the work that you guys have done and the teachers that you have as well. It's just can't thank you enough. The question I have is, right now we're dealing with COVID. Budgets are bad, but you guys made it work, and you've also gone beyond just making your own budget work. I think you've looked out for the entire town as well. And but it's going to end. COVID's going to end at some point. When we are able to start things up again, where are your priorities? What types of things are you looking to ramp up sooner in that process rather than later? So thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. I think the most important thing for us, as we move into next year is similar to what you described for your own family, is our focus on making sure that we're taking care of the emotional and social needs of our kids in the best way we possibly can, and catching them up academically, connecting them back again, being in person and finding ways to create experiences for kids that they may have missed when they were out and remote over the year. And so that's been a huge focus for us, I think. And it will be, moving into next year. We want to get kids back in school. We want to make those connections for them. And we want to bring families back together again, bring families into the buildings as well. So.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, you all set? Okay, anybody else in the committee have a question?
Ed, I don't have a question. I just kind of have a comment.
Go ahead,
That's okay. I want to preface this by saying I work for the school department, so I sort of know all these people and probably know all the answers to all the questions. But I think something that John said really has to resonate with those of us who have been around. And John and Chet were talking about how old they were, and I'm not going to tell you how many years I've been at Stoughton, but I've been a town meeting member for a long time. And I can honestly say now that the way that the school department and the town offices have been conducting themselves in the last couple of years is really gratifying to me. I sat through town meetings where people literally screamed and yelled at each other from one side of the aisle to the other. The school department and the town actually fought with each other. So it makes me feel really good to know that this is the way we're going forward. And I thank you all.
All right, thank you, Diane. Anybody else? I got a few, so anybody else got a comment or a question? Geez, you guys are quiet tonight. You guys okay? You all awake?
I got more, Ed. I'm just going to give you opportunities.
Okay, thank you. All right, can you comment on the transportation, either special needs or local buses? I know last year we had some issues with the contract, the local, about when COVID hit, you kind of got stuck with some stuff. Has that been addressed? And can you comment about the bus fees and their effects on the revolving funds? Like, is less people taking the bus? You're taking a hit for no one's using the gym, so you don't get the fees and all that kind of thing, and yada yada. Can you kind of address that in some fashion?
Sure. There are a couple of changes in the budget itself. You see that we shifted one of the special ed, one of the buses that was under special ed over to regular ed. So you'll see that just in there. In terms of the effects of COVID, there's some interesting things. You can only put 23 kids on a bus, and where you used to have as many as 50 or 60. So that's definitely had an impact. In terms of the contract with the bus company last year, when we shut down, we had to sort of renegotiate all of that. And this year, thanks to Mrs. Piatelli and her core group of business managers, they did a great job and negotiated a good amount of savings in the contract this year, based on the days in the beginning of the year that were available, and some of the other sort of shifts because of COVID. So they did a great job ensuring that if we did have to close down, if we had to have one of those big shutdowns again, that we would not be paying the same high rate that we did last year. So kudos to Mrs. Piatelli and her team for making that work.
Yeah, I think what a great thing would be, Kathy, you gave the school committee a nice overview. She really worked hard when we had the pandemic in the spring, what we had to pay versus now. So Kathy, would you mind just sharing a little bit of that hard work you did on the difference in what came out of our budget?
Sure, thanks. Last spring, we actually negotiated because we had a contract with them and they expected to get paid, but the services weren't being provided. The legislature did pass a law that we could make contract adjustments. So we paid them 60% of their daily rate instead of the full daily rate. And then this year, when we began school, we cut 10 days, nope, only 8 days. We could have cut 10. We cut 8 days off of our school calendar. So instead of them contracting for 180 days, we paid them 40% of their daily rate. And then Wednesdays, we didn't have any school, but they still needed to provide their drivers a job, so they would come in the yard and clean up the buses on those Wednesdays, and we paid them 80% of the daily rate. So we're back in school on Wednesdays, so we're back up to full pay. So hopefully we continue at this rate. And yeah, First Student was great to work with. We had a committee of a bunch of South Shore schools working with them, and we were able to save some money because of this. So.
And then now that we're back on Wednesdays, and so we've added more time. So as that cost increases, we also, a nice thing is that we're having more people paying fees and able to ride the bus. So that goes up too. So that's good.
All right, what's happened to revolving funds as far as any kind of a hits, or they're flat, or as far as, less fees coming in or less fees going out? I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
The two major revolving funds that would have taken a hit would be the preschool account, where they were in school fewer days at the beginning of the year, and then busing. Both of those, with our change and adding another day, have now come back to slightly better. So those we hope to see those revolving funds recover a little bit. Didn't take a huge hit, but with this year, the second half of the year, I think it'll be better.
And what about the other one, the facilities fund, or whatever you call it, for the using the gyms and all that stuff? Are they still doing that, or that's not happening, or?
No, not really, not that much. We're just, as we get into the spring, just looking at, the ability to start using some of the spaces, but we haven't really been able to do that. So you have, again, the costs and the savings. So the cost would be that, we're not bringing we're not able to bring the groups in, but the savings is that we're not having custodial fees and those kinds of things going out. So it's basically sort of hanging in there.
Kathy, did you want to add something to that?
Well, we have Stoughton extended day.
Extended day.
The extended day is a renter, so they are continued to rent.
And
but we don't have any of the big dance competitions or recitals, stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the good thing to wrap it up is that while you don't see the sports activities and all of the events with large crowds due to the social distancing needs. We don't have that component there. We did have, like she had mentioned, renting out for Stoughton Extended Day, that piece that happens, but also with the preschool program, we were able to add another day, right, Dr. Marcus? Right. Recently, when we shifted for more in-person learning from a curriculum standpoint for the students from K to 12, we also added a day for preschool, so that brings in additional. And then also, I think what Dr. Marcus was alluding to is one of the great things he mentioned is busing, in order to kind of try to catch up on some of that income, not really income, but cover some of the money that we're putting out. The additional day we added based on what Kathy had negotiated, we were able to add that day and recover those funds from the families. So it was all a big effort in December to say, okay, now that folks are coming in more, this is what they're coming in to help pay for. Again, the preschool piece, it's not like an increase in like funds per se, it's helping fund the program.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Carrara has a question.
Yeah, Scott, and then Dave had something else. Okay, go ahead, Scott.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Dr. Marcus. Dr. Marcus, when you had the problem with the busing and you're in that contract, did you have anything in your insurance policy to back you guys up on that? Because in some liability policies, they have like terrorist protection, and then they have biohazard, which pandemic could be biohazard. I'm just wondering if there was any way that you could recover on that.
I'm going to turn that one over to Mrs. Piatelli.
Not that I'm aware of. Our insurance would be through the town fleet. No, that would be on first student would have their own insurance. No, because the contract said they're guaranteed 180 days. So we were actually fortunate that we could make that deal.
Because I know it's in my liability, and it's an option whether you want to pay for it or not, but I didn't think any terrorists were going to get at us, so I don't choose it. But there is biohazard that I have to carry.
And I think that was one of the key features of the CARES funding, was to take care of some of those kinds of things. So that initial CARES funding, helped with some of those costs in the spring and into the fall.
Yeah, Scott, some of the districts, when that happened last spring, like Brockton, Kathy was talking to Brockton, like all the surrounding districts, they all were in that same pickle. So they carry the insurance and the students are on the buses, et cetera. But I think it was the key thing. Some towns we were talking about, do we just not pay and say, hey, we're not paying and let's figure out whatever. But there was never a discussion about we're under the town insurance, if there was any coverage. I mean, it's something, Kathy, maybe you can go look, follow up on and email Scott back if you find anything. Maybe, I don't know, might help.
No, it's just a suggestion. That's okay, Sandra. Thanks.
I bet there will be something in future contracts.
Yes. I'm sure it opened the big door now.
Definitely will be.
Good idea, Scott.
Well, if we were paying them, I hope they were running the buses.
Yeah. I didn't get any break in my insurance. The guy told me that they were covered just as good when they were parked.
That's it. All right, Dave, do you have something?
Yeah, I didn't have my hand up, but I will add a question since you called on me. Through you, there's a beautiful new black box theater in the high school. Did you guys ever develop the theater program and hire any teachers to start a program for your theater?
We had that as one of our sort of holds for this year. We still have the drama program. So the drama program, the drama club is still active, and they're using that space carefully in distanced ways and for classes. And it's something that's built into this coming year. You'll see in the budget that the drama position is there, and we're able to build that program starting next year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's great, and I think you're right that space is such a wonderful place to be, and it's been so tricky with the pandemic and not being able to use the space for the way that it's intended. But thank you.
Yeah, it's designed for experimental and improvisation type things,
Right.
and it'd be a shame if a piece of property like that didn't get used. So it'd be great to see.
Absolutely.
It's meant for groups over 10, which is not right now.
Right. They are using it in small groups, like groups of just 2 or 3. But you're right, Anita. It's really meant for that that group experience.
Yeah, well, I of course meant starting in September. Hopefully by then,
absolutely.
enough vaccinations and people feeling good about getting out.
Okay, anybody else? All right, then I guess we're good for tonight. Okay, just a couple of points. We're gonna have you guys back in March to review the final budget and go over the articles that you have. The one for the, feasibility study and the special ed fund, whatever we're gonna call it. A lot of things will happen between now and then. We'll hear from the legislature, we'll hear from Congress if they pass anything. And so there are a lot of things are still in motion. We don't know about revenue, still kind of suspect for this year's budget. So just keep those thoughts in mind, and we'll have you back at that time to see where we stand at that point in time. And as far as that special ed trust one, can you think about some sort of a cap on that, how that might work, or would you consider it, or something to that nature instead of open-ended, or is there some kind of an amount that would be reasonable?
There is
a
cap on it, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, there is. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It's
Wasn't sure. The article didn't say anything about that.
It's up to 10% of the budget, our budget, at any given time.
Yeah, but is that per year, forever?
Oh, no. That's just how much is allowed to be in the fund.
Oh, max.
Yes.
Okay.
Excuse me, Ed, are we opening up on articles? Are we?
No, it was just an overview. It's not anything about article. We're going to go over that in March.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
It can be no more than 2% of our annual budget.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. Okay.
That is an article.
One other item. I've been looking at encumbrances for the town and for the schools. And I'm going to send that over to Dr. Marcus and Ms. Patelli. I want you to look at that, the 630-20 open items and the 630-19. A lot of dollars are there. I just want to go over those just to see what our philosophy is on, what they are, why we do them. A lot of it's the prepaid tuitions and things for different outside sources. So just to get an overview of that, what's our philosophy on it, why do we do it, all those kinds of things. Because it is kind of a large amount to have at the end of the year. Why do we do it, that sort of thing. So I'll send that over to you and you can look at it and, we can discuss that in March, when we get to that meeting.
Quick question, Ed.
Yep, good, Elliot.
If the school guy is still there, Dr. Marcus, I remember a couple of years ago when we had a town meeting there, the acoustics in the auditorium were just terrible. Did that ever get straightened out?
It did, sir, yes.
It literally was the speakers needed to get straightened out.
Yeah.
Really? Is that what it was?
Oh, okay, because I didn't know, with nobody in there, it'd probably sound pretty good.
No, shortly after that town meeting, they shifted the speakers so that they were actually aimed down into the orchestra instead of way in the back.
Oh, good. Marvelous, thank you.
Sure.
Do you guys know, if there's any possibility that we could use the auditorium for the meeting this year, or is it still kind of off the table?
Not sure. It's all,
It'd be up to the town moderator, I guess, to reach out and figure out and what the social distancing guidelines are.
The requirements, yeah.
Right, so I don't think that's yeah.
So we'll
What about the football? What about the football field?
I think that's a discussion probably with the town moderator to see what his thoughts are and figure that out from that perspective. I'd hate to step on his toes and talk about it during a budget discussion.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't mean, but I'm sure he has his thoughts. I don't want to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just wondering. Okay.
Yeah. We're open to help in any way we can, but again, who knows?
As long as you're willing, that's what we wanted to know.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
And who doesn't want to be in that nice new building or on that nice new field?
There you go.
We'll use cardboard cutouts like they did for the baseball game.
That was awesome.
There'll only be 10 people at the actual town meeting, and then something.
I'm going to put an amplifier behind my cutout. It'll have an amplifier built in.
Don't need one.
Okay, I guess we're done for tonight as far as discussing the school budget. Does the school committee have any questions for FinCom, or are we okay right now for where we are? Or
Mr. Chairman, do you have a date? Do you have a date for the March meeting yet?
not sure yet. It'll be a Wednesday or Thursday.
Yes, we did, Ed.
Did we?
Give me
Yeah, but it could-
let me find
it
my
could-
papers.
It could change. I'm not sure yet how far in the end. We're trying to not get too close. We have to be done the end of March for everything, so.
We'd
we need a
prefer
little
to do it as soon as
think
you
and
guys
vote.
can, and that way we can at least give you what you need or answer any questions or whatever it is. The sooner the
Oh,
better.
John, you got that? I gotta go find my other sheet. Do you
Eddie,
have-
a temporary schedule at the school coming back March 11th.
Okay.
Oh, can I ask a non-budget question, Ed?
No.
Oh,
That's allowed.
As long as it doesn't take an hour to answer.
I don't know if it would break. I don't think it breaks open meeting. But about the fireworks for 4th of July, was there a plan for accommodating the fireworks the way we used to, knowing the whole configuration has changed with the high school?
So I'm not aware of how that used to work. So maybe somebody who's been around could speak to that.
I don't think that's something we've discussed with the rec department or anything like that. It's not really.
On the radar.
Yeah, I think
On
that's,
the radar. Okay.
yeah, I don't know what a turf field, it's not recommended to have fireworks on a turf field. You're not recommended to put like those fold up chairs on a turf field when you go to watch a game. So I don't see that. I'm guessing that's why they haven't asked. But again, I don't know. I don't know what I think Dr. Marcus, that would just be something.
And it also depends on COVID.
Yeah,
I mean,
what's
they
going
might
on.
not be able to have audiences at all, people.
In July, yeah, that would be sad if all the way in July,
Well,
love to see
Well,
it.
you can also treat your field like the Patriots do, and you have a big cover for the whole thing that they do monster trucks and everything on top of their field. So I'm sure you have
I
that
think
in
that's a
your,
great idea.
I'm
Katie.
sure you have that in your budget.
Yeah, I'm sure they're gonna.
Yeah, Bill?
I'm sure that That's the what I was finance gonna say. committee I'm sure they get a monster sure money that's too.
Let's add another article.
Yeah.
Scott, do you have a monster truck that we can put out there on the field?
We put a few.
I see Katie unmuted.
Quite a few.
Be louder than
Football
the fire,
monster truck.
be louder than fireworks, that's for sure.
All right, then, I guess we're all set for tonight with the school committee. Dr. Marcus, thank you for coming by tonight. Appreciate your input, and hopefully we'll schedule that a March 11th meeting to catch up on everything.
Mr. Chairman, I need
We're
to
gonna
make a
pencil
motion.
in March 11th at 7:30. What's the time?
7:15 is our time now.
7:50, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make a motion for the school committee to adjourn the portion of the joint meeting with the FinCom.
Can I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Great, now I'll just have
March
a roll
11th.
roll call from Anita. I just voted. Anita
Yes.
Hill. Sorry. Katie Pina Enochian.
Yes.
Molly Cochran.
She's muted.
Yeah, you're muted, Molly.
Yes.
Thank
To the
you.
vote.
Yes, great. Thank you guys so much for having us. The meeting is adjourned. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you
All
for
right,
having us.
thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you
all.
Stay well.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, we'll let them sign off, and then, all right, what else do we have for tonight? Not too much more. All right, anybody got anything else on the, any budgets or articles in generality for right now?
Well, Ed, you had Southeast Regional and the Norfolk.
Yeah, I didn't print out my agenda. Yeah, I just want to go over real quick. The number that's in the budget, since it's part of the education grouping, is, I believe it's up by about 70,000 from last year. So that's our penciled in number. We usually don't get it, the final number, till March. And Norfolk Aggie, you know, we throw in 4 or 5 kids. That's roughly what that number is. It's kind of been staying there. They don't bill us till late May, so we really don't know the exact number, but it's still a placeholder. But it's roughly the same as been in past years, so it seems to be working. And that's all I got to say about that.
All right, well, it's just, it was on the agenda, and if we had, you know,
Oh,
if we
thank
had
you.
the public on, yeah, we.
Yep, thank you. And the public want to comment on Southeast Regional or Norfolk Aggie? All right, hearing none. Okay, we're meeting tomorrow night at 7:15. We're gonna go over the joint costs budget, which is the pension, healthcare, debt service, all that good stuff.
Yeah, Ed, just out of curiosity, do we need to talk about snow budget if there's going to be a lot of storms that we've just had and coming up, or is it something that?
No, we can wait till the DPW budget. Mr. Rowe, you wanna have anything to say about that as of today or whatever, where we are on the snow budget?
I think he's gone.
Oh, is he gone?
Oh, no,
No,
he's
he's
still
there.
here.
He's here.
Where
He's
is
still
he?
here, but he's muted.
He's muted.
Oh, there he is, yep, yep. There he is.
Hello, Bill, can you hear us?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
yes,
sir.
I can. Yeah, we're at the limit. Mr. Fitzgerald requested the overdraft permission yesterday, so I'm waiting on that.
Okay, so we've burned up the budget number, the 400, and now
Right.
we're into the overage,
Correct. Mhm.
which we don't know where that's going, but we're into that number, that part, okay.
Right.
Bill, was that an open-ended request, or did he request a certain amount?
It was just, I'm waiting on that answer from Robin, John.
Okay, thank you.
Robin's not sure whether he's going to do a fixed dollar amount or an unlimited.
Well, I mean, I think that's up to the person who approves it, whether they want to give him an open checkbook or whether they want to make him come back if he spends it all. We
Exactly, yeah.
we had trucks running up and down this neighborhood like we've never had them before in the 41 years I've been here.
Really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the roads were great, but I've never seen it so often, so early, and then throughout the storm. But
It's amazing what a little salt will do, huh?
I'm going to send you a picture of the truck I saw, Scotty.
What about the brine machine?
I thought you were checking into that.
Don't start
We're not going there. Leave that one alone. All right.
This, John, you had a truck, I had a front end loader out in front of my house.
No, our front end loader guy quit when they wanted too much for insurance.
Oh.
But no, we actually had town trucks and everything instead of just, although this little one we just had, it was, most of that was just the pickups going by, but
Yeah, a lot of pickups.
they did
Okay,
it.
I guess we're done for tonight.
No, not yet, Ed, not yet. I told you I had more for you.
Oh, go ahead. What do you got?
I just want to bring this up because I know it was mentioned about, well, I know it come up during the selectmen's meeting or the select board's meeting last night. A question was asked about the, the Google Drive, and oh yeah, we've given them access to that. And I know we have access to it. Some people were having an issue because they needed I think it was looking at email accounts, and I was surprised some of the new members don't have one, yet we have people who have been gone for years that still do. But when the committee talked about this as a whole, it seemed like the consensus, at least in my opinion, and this is what I want to make it formalized. I thought we had talked about this Google Drive being a great place as a repository for information, as like a reference library. But I thought most members, or a number of members, had indicated that the information that is being provided, all the backup information or whatever, should not just be dumped in the Google Drive and then we have to go looking every time we want to see if anything else has been there. And we had talked about the information should be sent directly out to all the members. Some members want it, printed and so forth, but in general, it was the information that needs to come to the committee should be sent out to the committee. And then it can be put in the Google Drive as a reference area. Because there's no notifications. There's no
backup, John.
One at a time.
Because there's no notifications that come out if there's things that are put in there. Right. And we had talked about the accountability and knowing that, hey, if you email us something and we'll know, and sure, it can be filed there. And we have a secretary that's more than happy to populate that and make sure that the information gets out to us. He does a great job with it. And I'm sure it would be filed. And if there seems to be any question about what the committee want, I'm going to make a motion that any material that needs to come to the finance committee for the town warrant should be sent out to the committee as a whole. It can be then put into the Google Drive as a backup and reference, but I'm going to move that anything that we need should be sent out to us directly.
Second.
All right. Any other discussion?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Some of us don't have the time to be on that. I don't have the time to bug my wife about it. We deserve to have it sent directly to us, like John said. I'm not going to go fishing in a basket and we're the ones that didn't get it. We're a committee that's standing. It should be delivered to us in a proper fashion, that we get it right away. I don't want it, oh, well, we put it there last week. And Vaughn does a great job. He does probably more above and beyond. And the best thing is, he keeps a better track of it than the other people do. Oh, I know I sent it out, and I no, you didn't. Oh, well, we never received it. Well, you did. I don't want things thrown in Google. It's just a trash basket to me that we have to go searching in. I think we deserve a little respect and deliver it to us. I've asked for stuff in paper and I can't get it. I have to get it. Email this, email that. But I understand why, we're going through what we're going through. But I'm a paper guy. It doesn't get lost. That's all I have to say. And I did second John's motion.
Sure. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Chairman,
I have something to say.
Yeah.
Who's there?
I prefer being all the attachments to the emails I get, I save into a FinCom folder, and that way I can clean it up myself. If I look on the Google Drive, I can see more than one set of warrants out there, and I can figure out which one's most current.
Yeah,
or
right.
If I saved them in my own drive, I can sort them by date and delete the old ones, and there's one good one there, and I know what's current.
All right.
And to me, it's a way of accountability that we have a record of when it came. And if it's not an automatic notification, hey, something was dumped in your drive, you got to go find it or got to go get it. You know, I'm not in the habit of going in and checking every couple of hours or whatever to make sure information was there. And actually, I know Selectman KB is on. You know, they had voted and put policy in place that all information had to be to the committee, to the selectmen by December 31st if the article was going to be placed on the warrant, with some exceptions, the contracts or TIF agreements. So, I mean, if everything had to be in by the 31st, now that's not to say you might not get some supplemental information, which gives you even more, but there was a good listing of what had to be in by December 31st to get an article placed on the warrant. So, I mean, here we are, we're almost mid-March, so we should have everything. I just don't know if we do. And similar to Mr. West, yes, when I get emails in and it has attachments and I file them on my town iPad, and I have my own filing system for whether it's town meeting or just FinCom meetings or what have you. And it's organized in a way that I don't have one folder with a whole bunch of stuff in it that I got to go searching through for what is for this, what is for that. I can separate it by department and everything, so it's very easy to get in and find where the files are. So, and that's my main reason is the accountability. We know we get it. We have a record of when it came to us, and Vaughn has done a tremendous job getting information out to us when it comes into us. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Yeah.
So Lori has something.
Who's that,
Yeah, if
Dave?
you don't mind, thanks very much. There is I think I agree, because I think the real concern that I have personally is that we're not going to be able to lock down the documents that are supposed to be in the warrant, because how do we know it was presented to us in an open hearing? So how do you separate in a drive? Yeah, this document made it to our presentation, this one didn't. Because our policy is, if you didn't bring it to our meeting, it's not coming into the warrant except for the virtual table during town meeting. So in order to be able to enforce that policy, I think we have to be very careful about channeling the information, you know, let's say through Vaughn, so that we know it actually made it to our open hearing.
Okay. All right, there's a motion on the floor to make sure everything gets sent to us first before it goes on the Google Drive.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to mention something about the drive thing there.
Yeah.
I know we talked about the drive thing, but when stuff comes in to me and I send it out, I know that Diane recently put a drive together just specifically for the FinCom, not linked to the town hall drive, and then we drop it in there too.
That's true.
That's kind of like this extra thing we're working on now, that stuff that goes out gets dropped into there too.
One of the things, and certainly I don't want to give a lesson in Google Drive, but when you put something in there, you can actually click on it and share it. And what it will do is send a notification to everybody on your list. That's what I did with you before for the spreadsheet. So Vaughn could certainly do that every time and just put it in the drive and literally say share, and you get a notification that there's something new in the drive, or email it and then just put it in the drive. Either one works.
I've been emailing just for consistency, so we have a kind of a time record as to when it goes out, and then kind of as a backup, kind of the whole FinCom library theory, I'm just dropping it into the drive too. But
does it allow?
It would be when I email.
Hold on, let me finish.
Does the drive allow for a folder to be created that only Vaughn could open?
Sure.
Okay, because then you can maybe lock down documents that he can say, yeah, this is a document that made it, or this one didn't. It's a way to lock it.
That you don't need.
Okay, in that folder, you can make as many folders as you'd like, and do that and lock them down for certain people. So Vaughn, you and I will talk about that.
Okay. Selectman Cavey, you out there, you had a question? You want to comment?
Yeah. I just wanted to say that I'm sure we can provide this any way you guys want. I believe the intention was really to provide what is often called a single source of truth, or primary source of truth, where there's everyone knows they can find the most recent versions, the most appropriate versions for things. rather than having, either names fall off the distribution list, people not receiving things, or what often happens when there's a lot of information floating around is that there might be multiple versions, and some people are using an older version, some people are using a newer version. So in data management, having this like single source of truth is pretty common. But I can also understand that you have other ways that you want to work, as well as other standing committees have other ways that they want to work. So I'm happy to be involved in helping you guys get the information that you need, with assurance that you have both updated information, but also some sort of a version control that you know that what you've received is what ends up in the warrant, and things that end up in the warrant aren't things that you haven't seen. So I just wanted to comment on that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
Hi, anybody else?
Along with that, Ed, can I just, through you, ask Enoch if he's ever received a town email? I think he was the only one, and sometimes you have issues putting things into Google if it's not a true Google email. So I don't think he had a town, a finance committee email address.
There are several members that don't have town emails for whatever reason, if they don't want to use them or they don't have them. But I think that's why it's also important that we email it out, just so people have it that way and nobody has to go searching through a drive if they don't.
Right.
I do not have a town or Google email, but I attempted to get into it, and it allowed me to submit that I was requesting to get into it, and my email got approved. So even though I'm not a town email or Google email, I can get in.
Yeah.
I approved you, that's good.
Guess what? That's what happens. I get a notification that says someone outside of the area, so to speak, is requesting permission to go in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You're the gatekeeper.
Hey, just so you understand, there's a reason you really want to have a town email.
Yes.
Because if you're using your personal email, and these are public records, and what you end up doing is if somebody really has an issue, your private email can now be open for search and looking for information, because that's what you're using for the town business. That's why it's really beneficial to you to make sure they provide you with a town email. I mean, we still got town emails out there. We pay for these.
Yeah,
we still got town emails out there for people that shouldn't have them anymore.
Right.
But if you don't have one, that should be brought to Trish's attention and make sure that you get one.
Okay, and I will certainly do that if everybody tomorrow night lets me know whether they do or they don't have a town email, and I'll address it with Trish.
Okay. I would strongly suggest that you do get one.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you, Ed, for.
All right. We all set on that? All right, time to vote. Huh? Go ahead.
No. That's why I was going to ask if we had voted. I couldn't remember.
Okay. All right. The gist of the motion is that we will get sent everything to us, our emails first, and then it can go on the drive. Is that about right, John?
Yep.
Well, I mean, I don't care if they dump it in the drive and they go to us, but.
Yeah, it's got to go to us first.
The intent is that we get the information sent directly to us.
Definitely, yeah. Okay. All right, Bob.
Yes.
Chet.
Yes.
Dave.
Yes.
Diane.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Yes, you here? Still at the other meeting. It's okay. Ben.
Aye.
Goes for at the other meeting too. John.
Yes.
D. John Rock, you still awake?
I am still awake. I'm here. Yes.
Right. Marty.
Yes.
Elliot.
Oh, yes.
Vaughn.
Aye.
Enoch.
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Unanimous.
What's the number, Ed?
13.
Yeah, two on here. 13.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Hold on 1 second. We need a motion to continue the public hearing till Thursday.
And I move that we continue the public hearing to Thursday, February 11th at 7:15.
I move that we don't. Oh.
All right, all those in favor?
You get a second?
Second.
Who said don't?
That they don't.
Someone's being different. Okay, chair votes yes. Bob?
Yes.
Chet?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Yes?
No,
John's not
yes.
here. Ben?
Yes.
Joel's not here. John Anzavino?
Yes.
D. John Rock?
Yes.
Marty West?
Yes.
Elliot?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
Enoch?
Yes.
Okay. Same vote, 13-0. Okay, that's doing. Now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So entertained.
All right, all those in favor? Chair votes yes.
Aye.
Chet?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Diane? Diane, you still here?
Yes.
Okay, Scott?
Yes.
Yes is in here. Ben?
Yes.
Joel's not here. John Anzavino?
Yes.
D. John Rock?
Yes.
Marty?
Yes.
Elliot?
Yes.
Vaughn?
Yes.
And Enoch? Enoch, you still here?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right. All right. 13-0, all set. All right.
A question to Gilda. Did you pick up when the members joined that came in a little late?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I tracked them.
Probably 5 minutes off, but
I tracked them when they popped in. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
And
I
then
was
I hope the
watching.
little guy is doing better.
I want the record to show I beat Scott here.
Yes, for 13 minutes.
All right.
But he
You set the
not
bar-
beat you
you
by-
set the bar
he
high
not
there,
beat
Ben.
you
You
by
set the
11.
bar real high.
Okay, great. See you by tomorrow at 7:15.
All right.
All right.
Have a
Good
good
night, all.
night, Ed.